And we're live.
Hi, friends. Welcome to My Divorce Real Estate. I'm Amber Gifford, and this is my husband and teammate, Scotty Gifford.
And today we have a special guest with us, Amanda Pierson from the Heights Law Group here in Houston.
Yeah,
Hi,
she's a
everyone.
estate planning probate attorney. We've had her on another video about probate, and she's here again today talking about divorce and probate. Ba-da-da-da.
Yeah, because it can get a little bit more complicated once you add an extra layer of families in this, right?
Or
Absolutely.
families you don't want.
Ex families.
Ex families. So we'll just dive right in.
Yeah.
Last time we talked about probate, we want to talk about divorce and probate. And, we're divorce real estate experts here in the Houston area. You're in Houston as well. So how does divorce factor into the probate process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the saddest and scariest thing to keep in mind in Texas is you're married or you're divorced, right? So people die unexpectedly all the time, and at any point in the divorce process. So sometimes couples will be in the process of getting a divorce and one of the spouses will die. And that's where you start to see a lot of divorce and probate, the intersection of those issues really come into play is what happens to that person's estate if they died in the middle of a divorce.
Yikes, that would be horrific.
Well, and sometimes we have people that are just separated, right? They think, oh, well, I haven't, they didn't ever actually file the divorce or they never actually finalize the divorce.
And you say separated because here in Texas, there is no true legal separation.
Yeah, you're either, like you said, you're either married or you're not, right?
True.
Absolutely. Yes. And a lot of people are not familiar with the law, right? They're not familiar with legal concepts. They don't want to pay for an attorney. Maybe they've been separated for years and years and years. They haven't thought about their ex in a really long time, and they die, and maybe they die without a will. And suddenly you are in a situation where all the wrong people are inheriting, and the people that you thought would inherit have been cut out.
I actually have a client who they're not doing anything about a divorce because of money.
Yep.
And that's really putting you at risk. I mean, at the end of the day, I know, oh, nothing will happen, blah, 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 but it does.
Well, we're all going to die, right? You just need to accept that fact, right? Like the price of being alive is that you have to die someday, right?
So, and gray divorce too, which is another hot topic that's on the rise now. And we did a whole video on gray divorce as well. Yeah.
We'll link to it. But so the gray divorce, like it's happening when you're later in life, and maybe you have a family that you don't want to longer leave, certain assets to, and you're divorcing. So legally, the law has to follow what it says in Texas. We have to follow the probate laws, right? You can't just make up your own. Well, this is going to go to Johnny unless you say so, right? And then in your will.
Yeah, so you can make a will, right? A valid and binding will that will distribute the assets that you have how you want them to be distributed. But if you don't do that, then just telling somebody maybe in life that you wanted them to get your car or piece of jewelry or bank account isn't going to be enough.
Yeah, that Johnny, he doesn't deserve nothing. You can say that all your life, but unless you write it down, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
So, what are some key things that everyone needs to know to do during and post divorce regarding divorce and probate?
Yeah, there are two things to keep in mind. So during your divorce, start thinking about your divorce decree. And a lot of people will come to me and they'll have children from their marriage, and they're worried that their ex will remarry and somehow disinherit their children, right? That's a concern that people have a lot. And in that situation, I would say that is something that I can't control your ex, right? And the way to protect your children is through the divorce process and the divorce decree. So that is outside of my personal wheelhouse, but it is something to keep in mind if you're in the process of getting divorced. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you are in the process of getting divorced and you do not want your ex to either inherit from you, or you do not want any trusts that are set up for your child to be managed by your ex-spouse, then those are two situations when you're going to want to make sure that your estate planning documents are up to date.
That's really important because managing the trust, like if you've designated them, or, always, we're not attorneys, Scotty and I, but we always recommend talking to the experts and letting them know your thought process so they can put anything in temporary orders that needs to be, or in your final decree. Don't leave anything out, which is another thing I always say is come prepared. Go to My Divorce Real Estate. There's a checklist. I believe I have a lot of the stuff on there to check off during divorce that pertains to a will.
And one of those things I think we talk about in there too is that after your divorce is finalized, you need to relook at that will again and see if that's still how you want to set up. Maybe you had somebody that was going to execute the will, that's no longer part of your family anymore, right? It was the other his side or her side of the family that you don't want longer to be.
I want to say this too, like I know for myself, and I'm sure maybe men don't feel this way as much. But when I got my divorce and I was looking at getting a will, I had nobody to put as my beneficiary or anyone to really like name as someone to help. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I don't have anybody. Like it really struck me as like I'm by myself and alone. And I just want to reiterate to those of us who feel that way, it's not really true. There you can come up with somebody, a friend, someone somewhere. People generally want to help. Obviously you have to trust them, but it really like emotionally kind of messed with me. Like I have no one, and I put off doing a will because of it. And I was like, I don't have a beneficiary to choose. My mom was older and I was like, she wouldn't be one. And, it really was kind of gut wrenching. And so I put it off because of that, which I don't recommend. Like you need to process through that. You're not really and truly alone. There's someone who you can choose, like ask your attorney, like, what do you recommend? Who's the best person? And what would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say start looking at who would you ask if you were in the hospital, if you needed somebody to, get your mail, take care of your plants or your pets or whatever the situation is. Who would you naturally start turning to? Who are the people that you know who are accountants and financial advisors and attorneys and people who would, be mentally and administratively equipped to handle some of these situations? And you'll start to be able to pull together some names, siblings and relatives and friends and neighbors. And you have more people in your life than you think. But a lot of people do put off the estate planning process just because they're having trouble making a decision on, any number of different categories.
And so you said something there that I didn't even, as to be honest, when we're talking about this, I didn't even think about it. I always think it has to be some kind of family member that's going to be the person executing your will or whatever. Like I has to be my cousin or my mom or my third.
It can be your best friend, right?
Yeah, it could be anyone, right? That we trust.
So often your best friend or that family friend you've known forever, or that friend who served as the executor for both of their parents, and they know what they're doing. A lot of people will have people in their estate plans that are not family members.
Yeah, I think that I like what you said too. Like if you're in the hospital, who would you count on? Because I literally put it off because of that. And we circled back around being married. And so I think it's important to note that you aren't alone. There are people, I recommend go ahead and filling out the paperwork, start making the process with your attorney to get everything situated after your divorce. And you can always come up with a name in between. Oh, I forgot about that person. Cause I kind of did that too. Oh, I could have used them.
You can, and estate planning documents, wills, powers of attorney, advanced directives, all of these documents are meant to be updated, periodically every few years. So just because you don't have the perfect designation, I promise it's better than no designation. So it's good to get started, to get something in place, and maybe it's a C grade, right, for your estate plan, but it's better than an F. And you can keep working over time to improve that plan to get it exactly where you want it to be.
And that's what we want people to do, is actually take action and start the process of this, and not just go, well, I don't have it all figured out, because you're never going to have it all figured out before you start, right? You're going to go there. And that's why people like you, Amanda, are going to be able to help them. Hey, this is where we can guide you, and this is what you should do. And this is like, you're going to advise them the whole way, right?
Absolutely. I will. And I see with my clients, you come in, a young couple comes in, and maybe their parents are their executors and decision makers, or recently divorced, and it's their friends who are their executors and decision makers. And then they get older, and suddenly their parents are really too old to serve in those roles, and it becomes their friends who are serving. And then as even more time goes on, it becomes their children now who will become old enough to take on those jobs. And throughout your life, those roles will change, and you want to keep updating your estate plan so it changes along with it.
True. Your kids grow up.
Yeah. So let's dive into maybe a little bit of some of the questions we had.
Well, I saw this a lot come up, like, is an ex-wife or ex-husband considered a surviving spouse?
No, if you were divorced before you died, then your ex-wife or your ex-husband is not going to be a surviving spouse. That said, sometimes divorce decrees will have obligations in place, right, that need to be respected. And so, whenever I do a probate, I do ask about if there were any ex-spouses, any children from prior marriages, things like that, to get the full, lay of the land before doing a probate or before doing a will.
Because a lot of times in that divorce decree, there's assets or real property that is assigned or given to a person in the divorce, right? So we see that all the time, and we know that even a judge can't go back and overturn what is written in that MSA or divorce decree, right? So
exactly. So if you have that in place, then I need to know that so I don't put something in your will that's going to conflict.
I think we hear a lot too, like, I'm divorced, remarrying, and moving in to my new husband's home is a separate property. And we are always, yes, it is separate property, unless it's otherwise stated in the will that you're going to get a portion of it. But if that person has kids, that child or children get a portion of that home too, if he were to pass, unless there's a will that states otherwise.
Yeah, so intestate succession, which is what happens if you die without a will, right? If you die in Texas and you don't have a will, Texas has a law that is what they think is going to be what you would have wanted, right? And it's complicated, and they divide property. There's different rules for how property passes depending on whether it's separate property, separate real property, if it's community property. I mean, there's all these different splits and divides depending on who's surviving. And it's complicated, and it's often not what you would want to have happen. So it's best to don't just throw it up to chance, make sure that you have a plan in place, particularly if you were somebody who has a blended family, kids from a prior marriage, maybe you're remarried and that new spouse has kids from a prior marriage and new kids together. And absolutely, those are the situations where the unexpected is really what happens when somebody passes away.
Yeah, and I'll say we talked to you previously because we were kind of talking about our personal situation where we're a blended family, right? Me and Amber both have kids from a previous marriage, and we have separate property from previous marriages too. So it's like we kind of helped us dive into that process a little bit and figure out some of those nuances and what would happen here and there. And that's really why we, connected with you at some level, because we ourselves had questions about that, and we know other people have questions about this real estate stuff that can be happening, what's going to happen with that. So definitely. And I know you have I'm going to plug your website a little bit too, because you have some stuff on there about like kind of what would happen. You kind of get some flow charts going right on there. Like it was like, hey, this would happen and you get this percentage. But obviously you would want to still reach out to you directly. How can they reach you if they were trying to, what would be the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I think if you just send me an email, it would be great. My email address is Amanda, AMANDA @heightslawgroup.com. Heights, HEIGHTS, lawgroup.com, and send me an email. We can set up a time to do a consultation, and I can get to know you and understand what your issues are and see if there's a way that we can resolve them together.
Awesome. And that's obviously your email's on your website as well. And what's your website?
My website is heightslawgroup.com. So just www.heightslawgroup.com.
Awesome. So I just wanted to plug you there for you're taking the time to spend with us here. So what's the next question we got?
I just had one too that was like, can you stop an ex from receiving inheritance? It kind of goes back with the same thing. I think people are just fear-based. Fears, false evidence appearing real. We tell ourselves these stories, and again, why you need an expert like Amanda to come in and answer those questions for you. And if you haven't drawn up a will, then to do one and work through whatever process they need to. And
one warning I have for clients is that a will covers your probate assets. not all assets are probate assets. And, you know, if you have an asset that is a non-probate asset, and what does that mean? That means, you know, a payable on death account, a life insurance policy, a 401k, things that have a designated beneficiary in them. Those items don't pass according to your will. They pass according to those policies or accounts themselves. And it's really important when you work with your attorney to go through all of your accounts and say, wait a minute, is this life insurance policy covered? And I could say, no, you need to go back in there. You need to update your beneficiaries, and you need to make sure that you are distributing your assets how you want. And the combination of coordinating those probate and non-probate assets is how you can really guarantee that your ex will not be inherited.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, make sure that after the divorce is over, that if you don't want to leave that money in that 401k or your savings account or your life insurance policy, you change the beneficiaries and all those things and update. And a lot of those some of those you can do online, right? You can update the beneficiary online.
Absolutely. And, you know, the truth of the matter is that each of those policies will govern how those assets are distributed, what would happen if you get a divorce, what would happen if you had more kids, and what the process is to change your beneficiaries. It's going to be policy governed, not, you know, me. I can't just tell you what's going to happen with your Merrill Lynch account. You'll have to look at the policy itself, and it'll tell you what would happen and how to update.
Yeah, I would say that's a legal matter too in regards to changing your beneficiary. Not something you want to do until you consult with your attorney, because a lot of times it's in the temp orders. You're not to be making any changes to anything until your divorce is finalized. And maybe yours is set up where you have to leave the same beneficiary to your youngest child's 18. Who knows? So just some things to consider. Don't go changing stuff around until you're there.
Yeah, exactly. We'd cover some of that in maybe some other videos too. But let's see.
That's everything. I think
everything. We covered everything. All right. Awesome.
Well, thank you both for having me here.
Thanks for coming again. And I think we're going to do one more video with Amanda talking about wills, kind of diving in a little bit deeper there. And you guys can catch that one next. But as always, Scotty and I are here to bring you real life experiences to all your real estate needs.